It's a beautiful thing.
We in 6 countries. That's
Yes.
what I mean. So that's the thing that stands out to me.
Shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody. We love y'all.
Yes. Thank y'all for listening.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the channel. I'm Coach Deb, representing one half of the Healing Corner podcast. If you're interested in booking a consultation as well as service or a reading, go ahead and check me out at debshealingcornerstone.com.
I'm Coach Yams, owner of Healing is Work Coaching, and I help millennial professional women to live on purpose unapologetically and to help them to stop doing shit out of obligation. If you need help with that, reach out to me, Coach Yams, YAMZ.com. Hello, friends, and thank you for tuning in to the Healing Corner podcast. We are back for part 2 of Somatization, permanently releasing emotional baggage. And of course, we've got our guest, Dr. Tonia Winchester. And I'm going to read her bio again, because if you'd missed the first episode, I'm going to give it to you on this one. Tonia Winchester has been a naturopathic doctor for 17 years. She now uses contemporary neurological reprogramming techniques to release the painful imprint of the past and allow their bodies and minds to heal. She wrote Breakthrough the Insomnia Cycle, and she's the hostess of the Wonder With Me podcast. Thank you again for giving us some more of your time, Dr. Tonia.
Oh, I'm so glad we're back for more.
Deb, did you want to start with a question on this part 2 of things?
Yes.
Go for
okay. So I have a question. When it comes to like your clients and what you have done, what have you seen as the most challenging thing that, you know, people struggle with the most when it comes to going through the healing or going through, you know, the trauma and the things that they're dealing with? What do you see as the most challenging thing?
By the time they come to me, they're often at a place of desperation, because kind of like how I talked about in part 1, they're not getting answers from their family doctors, from the Western medical system. And I, by the way, I'm not crapping on Western medicine. If I break a limb, good gravy, yes, please set my bones back in place and stitch me up, please. And they don't do a great job in the prevention side of things. There is something lacking there, where this happens all the time, where patients will come to me after seeing, 5, 6 different doctors, and they give me all this blood work, they have all these imaging studies, and they're perfect on paper. And they feel like garbage. Nothing's wrong with them. They're fine. And so Western medicine can't do anything about them when they're fine. Ah, darn. That's really an awkward place to be. And I've been there as a patient, as I talked about in the previous episode. The thing is, the way that I look at the body and the way that I look at healing and the way that I look at going into disease states or pathology is that I don't need to put a label on something to be able to heal it. I'm not the healer, by the way. People are their own healers, but I don't need to say, oh, you've got a migraine headache disorder for me to be able to help you. I can understand your experience of whatever that thing is and then offer awesome, helpful tools. Now, I think the biggest challenge when people come to me, they're very open and willing. Like, I've tried everything, or I've talked to everybody. I'm not getting any progress. Like, what are we going to do? And I think the biggest challenge they have when actually looking at the journey ahead in terms of mind-body healing is the anticipation that it's going to be really painful. And I took an oath to first do no harm. I'm not interested in re-triggering people. I'm not interested in re-traumatizing people. That isn't of benefit to me or to my patients and clients who want to be well. That's just us paving the same old painful pattern and pathway. So I have to soothe people that the work that we're about to do in terms of getting these traumas out of the body, getting these old emotions out of the body so that they can go back into healing mode is very gentle and very safe and done in a way where people don't need to re-experience the pain of the past to heal from it. So the biggest challenge is putting their minds at ease that this is going to be fun. Actually, it's going to be really fun. and on the flip side of it, you're going to look and be like, why did I wait so long? Because the transformation that happens when we take stuff out of our body cells, the memories of these things, is so powerful. And suddenly people no longer can find the emotion of anger in their bodies. And it's not that we've repressed it. We've actually just disconnected it so that it doesn't need to be a charge anymore. People can't find the emotion of fear anymore. And what we're doing when we do this mind-body healing work is removing all the stuff that is no longer appropriate and no longer warranted. Because all emotions have a time and a place. I'm not trying to turn people into like emotionless robots. No. But what we're trying to do is actually give them back the choice of responding consciously and intentionally when faced with hard things instead of those automatic patterns of the past. We're giving people more resourcefulness, giving them more choice, letting them get in the, back in the driver's seat of their own life bus. And it doesn't need to be a painful process. It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did a part 2 to that. Actually, if you have found that maybe something was a little more challenging for you, have you had to like refer them to others? And if so, like what does that look like? What other tools outside of your capabilities have you had to give to clients?
Yeah. So I've had one patient. Sorry. One of the things about this work is that it's content free. So I don't have to know what people are clearing for it to be effective. And that goes alongside with, we don't need to tell our pain story over and over again to heal it. We can do something different. When I'm working with clearing, say, a specific trauma with someone, I give them the option. If you want to tell me a little bit about what happened, maybe a sentence or two, that's fine. Or you can think it through in their own mind. So some people decide to think it through in their own mind. And one time out of the people that I've worked with so far, one time the person who decided to tell me a little bit about it, her trauma was really triggering for me as a practitioner. And so after we did the work with her, I went straight to my coach and I was like, oh, like this thing came up for me. Like this was a big nugget. And then she did exactly what I did with my client with me, and my physiology calmed back down. I don't tend to work with people who are sort of in acute crisis. I actually just had a woman who has just left an abusive relationship. And I was like, you know what? I have my teacher is this is what he does. He does women in acute crisis. Like this is all he does in his practice as a coach. Like I'm going to send you there because I think you're just going to be in more experienced hands with this particular thing. So pass her along. So I think that's a really good and important question that you've asked. Like we have to know where our limitations are, and we have to know where our own sort of safety container is, because we can't heal people. Well, we can't heal others. We can only heal ourselves, but like we can't facilitate that for others if we've got stuff up in our own systems. So that old adage, hurt people, where people who have been wronged, they will likely wrong others unless they interrupt that pattern somehow. But on the flip, healed people heal people, right?
I love that. Healed people heal people. Okay, yeah. And that's true because to speak to you saying that a lot of people come in and they think that it's going to be a lot more painful than it is. I can attest. I have not worked directly with Dr. Tonia, but I have done my own work. And it is something to witness yourself before you make a decision to go through the process of undoing patterns and being honest with yourself, having real conversations with you and other people sometimes, and then going through those motions. And then on the other end, being like, you know what, that wasn't so bad. And I cannot believe that I waited that long to do it. So I encourage that even if it feels scary, it's probably the thing that you need to do. So you need to go ahead and just do it. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, what has been a time in which you've worked with the client where you've seen a transformation that has been your favorite?
Can I share 2 examples? It's always easy to talk about my own journey because I've lived it. When I was 30, when I turned 35, this is 9 years ago now, I gained 35 pounds in 1 year. My body put on this huge amount of weight. I was in this really stressful environment that was bullying and misogynistic and just gross, right? This was a hurt person who was hurting other people. And even though I left that environment, my body kept that weight on. And it kept it on. And I know a lot of things about how to help people release weight. I teach people to do it all the time. And yet my body was hanging on and holding on. And it wasn't until I did this work that we're talking about that I had what's called a breakthrough in NLP and cleared these old traumas out of my body, cleared those traumas with that person out of my body, cleared those old negative emotions. And when I say cleared, I mean the details of the story remain the same. Like the history doesn't change, but what changes is the story that I made it mean about myself. What changes is my interpretation, like we talked about last time. And after going through this process, this breakthrough process, those old things were neutralized emotionally so that it's like, well, I walked to the store. Versus like my boss yelled at me today for no reason, you know, like it's like, oh, I walked to the store, like no big deal. And after that breakthrough, this was going back now 3 years almost when I had my first breakthrough. I've had 5 now. I'm a fan. Remember those old Hair Club for Men ads that were like, I'm not only a client, I'm not only the president, but I'm also a client. Like, hello. So anyway, scroll moment there. My body just started releasing weight. And so 3 years ago, I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I'm at my leanest physique that I've been in my life. I feel great. And that's because people are like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I have good habits, but I always did. What's different is there's no longer this baggage that I'm carrying around that was, I'm assuming, my unconscious mind's attempt to kind of protect me and distance me from those threats that were out there before. I don't have a story of that threat anymore inside my physiology. So that's story number 1, my own transformation with my weight release. And I use the word release very consciously because language is important. And when I lose my keys, I do everything I can to find those damn things. So if you lose weight, your body's going to try to find it again. So I like the word release. It's just a little linguistic hack for people today. The second story is a young woman who came to me with a lot of body pain. I would put her in the category of fibromyalgia type picture, and which I'm learning more and more about is just a trauma response in our bodies. That aside, she also had a lot of jealousy in her relationship with her boyfriend. And those were the 2 main things that she came to have a breakthrough for. So we're going through this process. We cleared the emotions, which is always the first step. We went on to clearing the trauma pieces, so specific events. And this woman had, when she was young, her mom was hit by a drunk driver and sustained life debilitating brain injuries. And in that moment, my client then became the mom essentially in this relationship. And she carried a lot of anger and a lot of resentment and a lot of rage towards this driver, understandably so. And 20 years later, is that still warranted? Is that still appropriate? Is the question. I would argue no. And so we cleared the trauma of the moment that she found out that her mom had been injured. And after that event, or after that technique, which takes about 15 minutes to do, I will kind of challenge clients to sort of like refine those old painful emotions. I want to make sure that it's actually, out of the system. And I was like, so when you think about those events now, how does it make you feel? And she's just got this like tear streaming down her face. And she's like, I want to look that guy up now. And I was like, ooh, one of the beliefs in NLP is that every behavior is meeting a need, serving some sort of purpose. So I just said, for what purpose would you want to look him up? And she's like, I just want to see if he's okay now. And so then I'm like, oh my gosh, like we've gone from rage for 20 years to compassion. You just want to make sure that this guy is on some sort of healing path now. Like, holy, right? And so then the next time we met, like her pain had decreased substantially. It wasn't quite at zero yet. We had a little bit more to do, but like that was powerful from a emotional transformation and also a physical one too.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful because, and when I think back a lot of times when I had a lot of issues or traumas, and then when I changed my perspective, it's like you take your power back, and you put it back into the place that it's supposed to be at, and that's with you. Because before that, you're kind of just like allowing, your power to be taken away from you. And the person that's doing this, they don't even know that they're doing it. And it's like, that's where how they say the value, like how your value is and how people don't care about your value. It's you not caring, really. It's not really other people, And I noticed that too, like when I because when I started doing readings and stuff like that, I started off for myself. And as I started to do it for myself, I started to I was using it as a form of therapy, like a form of healing. And I realized other people around me, like I would have people that would come and ask me to do one for them because they felt like, the interpretations and the way that I was explaining it was kind of similar to, what they were going through. And it's an interesting thing, like how life, even different perspectives, different places, if you look at it a certain way, you can get the healing from it. So that's really cool how you're able to do that for your clients.
You can go, Dr. Tanya, if you got something, because I have a follow-up question that is, continue. Go ahead.
I had a comment to say about something that you had said, Deb, but it's disappeared for right now. So I'm going to just little Bo Peep it and it will just come back to me, wagging its happy little tail, and then I'll share when I remember. Truth.
So in the first episode, I know that you got it. There we go.
Yes, it's like letting people live in your head rent free was how I heard it termed recently. I'm like, that's perfect. Like, kick those guys out of there.
So in the first episode, you said that you had two stories, but one was a little lengthier. And so if we had time, then we'd come to it. So I wanted that one, but I also wanted to ask, have you ever worked with anyone to help them heal through the patterns and the trauma responses and things of dealing with their relationships with their parent? And what does that look like?
It's everything. It's everything. And we are born into this world with this like pure flowing consciousness. And we're just like, everything is like wonderful and alive. And it's like we're born, here's a great analogy. It's like we're born with an empty filing cabinet. And that means potential, only potential. And then the people that are caring for us, who probably, I'm generalizing, haven't healed, they're opening up our damn cabinet and putting their own damn files in there. You feel me there? So they're putting their anger files in, they're putting their abandonment files in, they're putting their fear files in, they're putting their anxiety files in, they're putting their, views on the world in there. And we are too young. We just strictly do not have the brain development from 0 to 7 to be like, I don't want your files in my cabinet. Thank you very much. And so we keep them all. And what has this done to our potential now? It has shrunk down our potential because now the filing cabinet is overfilled and overflowing with other people's shit. Excuse me. So the early early stuff is crucial. This is called the imprinting phase, where we basically just absorb what's going on around us and we take it on and believe it to be true. We don't discern that it couldn't possibly be true for us. When I work with clients and we're clearing the big 5 emotions, we call them, so that's anger, fear, hurt, guilt, and sadness, it all originates from those 0 to 7 years. And I ask my clients questions. So when was the first event, which when we disconnect it, it will cause this problem to disappear? And they'll be like, 29. And I'll be like, that ain't it. I'll be like, go back earlier. You couldn't have got through your life and had 29 be the first time you felt anger. Like, impossible, right? So when we find those ones that are sort of 0 to 7 or earlier, it could be in the womb, or there's potential in this work to look at past lives and to look at generational trauma as well, because those, depending on your belief system, they're important too, right? So it's everything. Our early caregivers are absolutely everything. And it's absolutely crucial that we tidy up those old wounds to be able to heal effectively. Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Deb.
Oh, I was thinking about, like, as you were talking about the 5 things that you kind of focus on, I was thinking about the root chakra. Like the root chakra and the sacral chakra, those are like our survival and, confidence. And so it's like you do the work on that portion of a person. And then it also, if you think about the chakras, they also align with our spine, which is like the part of the, that's the central nervous system, basically. So it's really interesting how, if we think about it, when you do holistic work and everything kind of comes all together. So even if we're doing the psychological, like being able to physically see something, working on the psych, or versus not being able to see it, but knowing like this is my, survival instincts and natural instincts, is still coming together to do the healing. So I just want to make a comment. I didn't have a question, not right now.
Yeah, and exactly what you're saying kind of speaks to that idea of when we work at those top levels of health with the mind and with our emotions, it's going to have this filter down effect into our biochemistry. And so we can work at all levels. For the deepest level, we need to kind of work higher up. Yeah. Yeah. And then we can nuance down and get more specific, granular. Oh yeah, you need more B12 or you need more iron. But until you've like healed the root cause stuff, the patterns will persist is kind of my belief system. Yeah. The second story about it was kind of attached to part 2 of what I was the second tool that we were talking about in terms of what can people kind of do in the moment when they're finding themselves reacting. So about our interpretations, this is this is just the perfect example of this. So I was getting a photo shoot done for my, website, social media and stuff like that. And I had a lot of outfits. I had a lot of looks that I wanted to bring to the photo shoot. So I had 4 bags packed at the back door. And my husband is this very introverted, internally referenced person, which means it's a lot of effort for him to consider what's going on outside of himself. He's really focused on his own internal world. He's taught me a lot about being in the world, to be honest. Anyways, he comes out of a shop and he sees all these bags and he says this one comment. He goes, "That's a lot of bags." And I was like, oh, this is fun. I am so excited about what's about to happen. And so I just started this social experiment where I was like, yep. And he asked me no further questions. Not, why do you have 4 bags packed? Where are you going? Who are you going with? How long are you going to be gone for? What are you doing when you're away? When are you going to be home? Like, no further questions, right? I was like, this is hilarious. This is the moment where most other people that I know and the people that I work with would have just started their own mental tape. Like, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't love me. He's not considerate of me. Like, how could he not care what I'm going to do? And that I'm like, who am I going with? Like, and the tape would start. And I'm just like, this is hilarious. So I go to the photo shoot. It's great. We get some looks. I go out for dinner with a friend. I go and teach the salsa dancing class that I teach. I come home that night. Yeah, woo, he's already asleep. So the next morning over breakfast, he's like, one question. He's like, so how did that all go? He has no idea what he's asking about, right? Again, anyone else could have just been like, oh my God, like what a jerk. Like, how could he not know and care? And like, and so I just said one word. I just said, good. No further questions. And because I know this man and I know that he loves me deeply, like I don't need to question his love for me through this experience, through this, example. Maybe old unhealed trauma, Tonia might have been like, that ass, like, but I was like, this is just who he is. And it's so sweet. So maybe months go by, like maybe 3 or 4 months go by, and I'm telling this story. We're out with a group of friends and I'm telling this story. And at the end, and he'd never shared this with me until this moment, he's like, yeah, and there I am seeing all these bags at the door being like, crap, like what did I forget that she told me she was doing? So he's in this like freak out mode of like, oh my God, I'm going to seem like the most forgetful and uncaring person because like I can't remember. And I hadn't told him, like I don't tell him about decisions I make like that in my business. Like it's my business, And so this is just this perfect example of like the stories that we make up in our heads, right? That probably aren't true. They're just probably not true. So let's make things mean different things that are more helpful, more affirmative, more supportive of our well-being and our goals.
Yeah, something that I'll add to that, like I've experienced this often enough to where I have to have a conversation with myself, and it's like, girl, you are tripping. That's not what's actually happening. And something that I have to remind myself to do is like, okay, let's assess the facts, what's actually happening, what's happening around, before we then just go adding extra things to it. And then the beautiful part is, if you're dealing with somebody who cares about you as a human in return, they're not going to mind having a conversation with you, probably. So also just open up your mouth. That's all I got to add.
Wow, this is beautiful. This is good information. Again, guys, I hope you guys are taking this in. Check out the description box. I just got to put that in there. She does have a website if you guys want to get in contact with the doctor, because this is amazing information.
Yes, and I would like to just give a space of time for you to tell us about your book, your podcast, and things that you've got coming up.
Cool. Yeah, the book is Break Through the Insomnia Cycle: How to Sleep Deeply, Wake Rested, and and enjoy happy, energized days. It is a book about kind of what we've been covering today in a more thorough and deep way, though. It's about these sort of root causes of that burnout cycle, of stress to disordered sleep to fatigue to anxiety to irritability, to that cycle. It's the root causes. And I have an analogy that I talk about in the book, like the 4 horsemen of the burnout cycle or the insomnia cycle are old unresolved negative emotions, old unresolved traumatic experiences, or significant emotional events, and limiting decisions. So it's a book about sort of how to start to explore those things for yourself and chart a path forward to get out of this cycle, to break through it, so that you can create the joy, the energy, the peace, the vitality that you're looking for in not only your own body, but also in those relationships that are important to you. For some people, that's about their career. For other people, it's about the impact that they want to make in their communities, whatever it is, right? I think about the ideas of NLP a lot because they're really good life lessons. And so I often am walking my dog in the forest and I'll be like, oh, like I'll get this download of another way to sort of teach about what are called the presuppositions of NLP, which is like a manual for life, I would say, how to teach those ideas so that people can kind of really get them anchored in their body. And so that's really what the podcast is about. It's called the Wonder With Me podcast. It's the place where we can ask better questions and change the quality of our lives. It's the place where we get to turn these little life moments into big life lessons. It's the place where we can learn to leverage the power of our unconscious minds to go back into healing mode. The episodes are small. They're 15 to 20 minutes, bite-sized nuggets for those commutes when you're waiting for your kids at soccer practice, whatever it is. And I've got 1 season out so far, and I've got some scripts ready to go for season 2 coming up. And then I'm working on book number 2, which is going to be about taking our negative thoughts and changing them into positive ones inside our own minds.
I love that. And if you could tell the people where they can find you, contact you, and all of that, please do that.
So my website is Tonia, Tonia, Winchester.com. And then from there, you can kind of, that's actually the book page, but there's a little chat window there if you wanted to reach out. Instagram at Coach Tonia, Facebook at Coach Tonia. Mm-hmm.
I just want to say thank you, Coach Winchester. We definitely appreciate you coming out here and giving us this important information, and I wish you the best.
Likewise, I want to say thank you so much for giving us 2 episodes of time, and imparting all of this knowledge on us and being willing to share so freely the options that do exist, because we have to get out of doing what we've seen other people do and doing things by default, and we have to start doing things on purpose with intention so that we can live the life that we see for ourselves. So everybody, thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe. Go get in contact with Dr. Tonia. She's going to make sure that you're taken care of as well. And we will see you next time. Thank you.